29.
28 seconds.
27.
26.
25 seconds.
24. 23.
22 seconds.
21 seconds.
20 seconds.
19.
18.
17 seconds.
16.
15 seconds.
14.
13 seconds.
12. 11.
10 seconds.
9.
8.
7.
6.
Copy.
5 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
Hi folks, and welcome back to the Scotch Tracker. Today, in celebration of what would have been 100 years of Gene Roddenberry's birth, if he had lived that long, I wanted to speak somewhat about like quotes that he's given and statements that he's made in celebration of Star Trek's creator. My favourite quotes that he's ever given was, "Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not just to tolerate, but take a special delight in differences in ideas and differences in life forms." So that was basically summarising what Star Trek was an attempt to do in his words. I'll read now from 3 books. The first is the Star Trek interview book by Alan Asherman, in which Gene Roddenberry said, "First of all, I have no belief that Star Trek depicts the actual future. It depicts us, now, things we need to understand about that. But I hope that Star Trek will encourage other artists and other writers to work in this area. I think the drama is a powerful force we still do not use very well, especially in television. I understand, of course, that we're going to have programs that are frothy and fun." And he goes on to speak some more about other programs, saying that he liked the Beverly Hillbillies. The second book I'll read from is Gene Roddenberry, The Myth and the Man Behind Star Trek by Joel Engel. I enjoy all of these books really, but this one is particularly, I know, controversial, or at least was controversial when it was published, because of some of the things that it says about Roddenberry. But today, flicking through it, before this program, I realised that, you know, not all of it is dismissive of him, or, you know, even challenging about his beliefs or whatever. I've got a great comment coming in today from Eugene. Thanks for joining the video, Eugene, and for your comment. And the idea of this video that I wanted to do was basically just have like a randomized flick through these books and to speak about little parts that come out. So none of it's really prepared, apart from that first one, the Star Trek interview book, that I looked up. I thought that was a nice contrast, where he says Star Trek is not to him about our future, but as the future that it was seen at that time. So I thought that was an interesting contrast to when he was saying that Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom. So in a way, it's, you know, it's envisioning the future of humanity, but in a way, it's also like through the lens of television at that time. So I thought that was really quite interesting. They made both statements. So this next statement I'll read. Gene Roddenberry, The Myth and the Man Behind Star Trek. Here's a quote from John Trimble, who was the partner of Bejo Trimble, they famously saved Star Trek, or at least helped save Star Trek when the show was cancelled basically in the second season. But then, thanks to a huge letter writing campaign that thankfully proceeded on to a third season of the original Star Trek series. And John Trimble said, Gene was a pretty sharp character. He had his eye out for the main chance. He was looking to make money. So that's like, I guess, one way that I guess that book, The Myth and the Man Behind Star Trek by Joel Engel, has sort of been controversial in showing how money was such a factor in Gene Roddenberry's thinking. Of course, money wasn't, a great deal of Star Trek, where everyone's in that future depicted as working for the common good rather than for financial gain. This final one I'll read from is a book called Gene Roddenberry, The Last Conversation. Again, I won't pick a particular part of the book, or I haven't picked a particular part of the book, so it will be randomized again. Because Gene Roddenberry's marriage was quite controversial to an extent. He had affairs and stuff like that with different people, I think. And this is a quote that says, within the bounds of what it takes to maintain a happy marriage, it's what I do. I practice what I preach. There may be times when I feel like dipping my wick, and I do so when it's right, when it feels good. People may say, oh, that Gene Roddenberry, he's no good, he's an unfaithful husband. I say, unfaithful to what? Then the interviewer said, Majel Shirley, who was his wife, Majel Barrett. And she played Christine Chapel and voiced the ship's computer in the original series, as well as playing number one in the TOS pilot The Cage. And in response to that, he said, no, not at all. People aren't concerned in their deepest selves about Majel. They're concerned about themselves, their rules, and so on. They mean I am unfaithful to the ideal, their ideal of marriage. They don't want to consider another ideal. They may be afraid. They may condemn me for breaking the vow they think I made, whereas in fact I didn't make it. I could never adhere to an agreement that deprived me of myself. Majel and I have our own agreement. And so it shows, like, I think, I guess, how differently Gene Roddenberry thought about societal, makeup, how society functions, in a way. There's also an announcement I'd like to make today on this 100th birthday of Gene Roddenberry. The next month, I'll be launching a new Star Trek website called Warp Factor Track, and it's been long in the making. There used to be another website called TrekWeb, which my friend Gus was heavily involved in running. Fueled by reminiscences of having helped run that site, he started up the idea of running a new Star Trek website in January last year, 2020. At that time, I volunteered to serve as webmaster of the project, but the COVID-19 pandemic made it more complicated to find a web designer, which held the project back for a while. This year, I've eventually found a web designer who's my brother's girlfriend, Margie, and even though she really doesn't know much about Star Trek, she's done a great job designing the site. In the interim between January last year and this year, and moving the project on this year, Gus has moved on to other things and is nowadays working on the upcoming excellent Star Trek Voyager documentary, which I'm sure you've probably seen with Broken Records for raising money, highest fundraised documentary in history. The new website's writing staff includes Lisa Klink and Will Stape, both of whom have written for the actual Star Trek TV series, with Lisa having had scripts produced primarily for Voyager, but also one for Deep Space Nine, and Will having contributed story material that became the basis for produced episodes of The Next Generation and DS9. The site will also be featuring articles by once-only writers, like one about Star Trek cross-stitching, and another by veteran Star Trek stuntwoman Leslie Hoffman, about what Star Trek means to her. And we've also got a great art department, featuring beautifully artistic contributions by Gaz Williams and John Adams' Phoenix Photography. And this is just the start. The website's adventure is just beginning. So there's definitely lots to look forward to at Warp Factor Trek. Lisa Klink herself said, avid Trek fans will find a lot of love on Warp Factor Trek, including articles by Trek writers and beautiful graphics and art. The site, run by Scotch Trekker Dan Leckie, i.e. me, premieres on the 8th of September. Be part of the ongoing conversation about your favourite franchise. And the website will be online from 8 September, that's next month, 8 September 2021, and it will help mark the 55th anniversary of Star Trek. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about Roddenberry and about the new forthcoming website that will be launched. We've got coming up, tomorrow we'll be discussing the second episode of Lower Decks, which is called Keishon, His Eyes Open. And then on Saturday we'll be doing the last in our series of series spotlights, examining and reviewing each of the Star Trek series up to the end of Enterprise. So this time on Saturday we'll be discussing Enterprise. We look forward to seeing you for all the shows. Thank you very much for watching the Scotch Trekker. I'll see you next time. Track you later.